We're about to dive into CSS3, which is the tool that takes that basic blueprint and turns it into something truly brilliant, something visually stunning.
And this is seriously the best way to think about it. If HTML is the skeleton, the bones, the structure, then CSS is everything else. It's the skin, the clothes, the haircut. It's the personality. CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets, is what lets you splash on color, pick cool fonts, and decide exactly how everything is laid out. It's not just styling, it's literally the language of web design.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on CSS3 as the language of web design. Then, we'll talk about the blueprint, CSS architecture. After that, we'll cover the targeting system, which is all about selectors. We'll look at the designer's toolkit, and finally, wrap up with some pro tools like modules and frameworks. Let's get into it.
First up, CSS3, the language of web design. So what exactly is CSS3? Well, it's the latest and greatest version of the CSS standard, and honestly, it's packed with features that are absolutely essential for building any modern website.
So what's all the fuss about? Well, one of the biggest changes is its modularity. Instead of this one giant, scary rulebook, CSS3 is broken down into smaller, bite-sized modules. Think of it like chapters in a book. One for backgrounds, one for animations, and so on. It makes it way easier to learn. And the advanced features? They're a total game changer. We're talking animations, transformations, complex layouts, all stuff that you used to need external plugins for. Now you can do it right in your CSS, which is huge.
Okay, having all these cool new tools is awesome, but it's kind of like having a pile of bricks without a blueprint. You need a plan, and that's exactly what CSS architecture is. It's about thinking strategically before you start writing code, so everything stays clean, organized, and doesn't turn into a mess later on, especially when your projects get bigger.
Yeah, a blueprint for your style sheet is the perfect way to put it. Because without one, oh man, it gets messy. We've all been there, right? You change one little thing and suddenly a completely unrelated part of your website breaks. That's a sign of bad architecture. Having a solid plan means your code is maintainable, it's flexible, and most importantly, it can grow without turning into a tangled web of chaos.
This visual really breaks it down for us. You can see this idea of a root component. Let's say it's a profile card. Inside that card, you've got smaller elements, like the person's picture or their name. And then you have modifiers, which are like different versions. Think about a button. You might have a blue primary button and a gray secondary one. By organizing our styles this way, we create these neat, self-contained building blocks that we can reuse all over our site. So, how do we actually do this? It's pretty straightforward. First, break your code into smaller, more manageable pieces. Don't just have one giant file. Second, make sure your components are independent. They shouldn't rely on other random parts of your site to work. And third, and this is a big one, name things logically. Give your selectors names that make sense. A little discipline here at the beginning saves you from a world of headaches later on.
All right, our blueprint is ready. Now, how do we actually tell the browser, hey, I want that specific headline to be blue? We need a targeting system. And in CSS, that system is all about selectors.
So what is a selector? It's really just a pattern. It's the part of the CSS rule that points to an HTML element. It can be super broad, like style all the paragraphs, or incredibly specific, like style only the last picture in the photo gallery. It's how you zero in on exactly what you want to change. And this is where things get really powerful. We can target elements based on their HTML attributes. Check this out. You can select any element that has a certain attribute, or even one where that attribute has a specific value. For instance, you could find every single link that starts with HTTPS, or you could style all the input fields that are required. It gives you this surgical precision to find exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, so targeting attributes is cool, but what about things that change? What about an element's state? How do you style a checkbox only when it's, well, checked, or an input field that's been disabled? For that, we need to go a level deeper.
And the answer is pseudo-classes. These are amazing. They let you style things based on information that isn't even in your HTML file. It's all about the current state of an element. For example, using checked, you can make a checkbox label turn green when it's ticked, or you can use disabled to gray out a button that can't be clicked. It's dynamic styling based on what's happening right now in the browser.
This is a perfect example. Look at the form here. The active fields look normal, but the disabled one is grayed out, and you just know you can't type in it. That's the disabled pseudo-class in action. It's such a simple thing, but it's a huge boost for user experience. It gives a clear visual signal to the user, and all it takes is one little line of CSS.
All right, we've got our structure, we know how to target things, now for the fun stuff. Let's open up the designer's toolkit and see some of the cool visual effects we can create with CSS 3.
Here's a classic, text shadow. It's exactly what it sounds like. With just one line of code, you can add a shadow to your text, which makes it feel like it's lifting off the page. It's a super easy way to add depth and make your headlines really pop.
And what about color? CSS 3 gave us something called the alpha channel. See the A in RGBA? That stands for alpha, and it controls transparency. This is huge. It's how designers create those cool semi-transparent overlays or that frosted glass look that's so popular in modern UI design. It's all about controlling opacity. Our control goes way beyond just colors. Check out backgrounds. With properties like background clip, you get to be super precise. You can tell the browser, hey, I want this background to go all the way to the edge of the border, or no, just have it cover the content area inside the padding. It's that level of detailed control that really elevates a design. Okay, so we've covered the fundamentals. Now let's talk about how the pros handle this stuff on massive, complex projects. Because when you're working with a big team or in a huge application, you need more than just good habits. You need powerful tools. So here's a classic nightmare scenario for developers. You change the style for a button, and it accidentally breaks 10 other buttons across the site. It happens all the time. CSS modules are designed to stop that. They automatically lock your styles to a specific component, so the styles for your profile card can never accidentally affect your navbar. Everything is self-contained.
And then you've got frameworks, which are basically toolkits of pre-written CSS. They are two main flavors. On one side, you have component-based frameworks like Bootstrap. They give you ready-to-go components, buttons, navbars, cards that are already styled. It's super fast for prototyping. On the other side, you have utility-first frameworks like Tailwind. They give you tiny, single-purpose classes like add a little padding or center this text. It gives you total control to build completely custom designs without ever leaving your HTML.
Okay, let's do a quick recap. What have we learned? Number 1, CSS 3 is the powerful modular language that makes our websites look amazing. 2, good architecture is non-negotiable for big projects. 3, selectors and pseudo-classes give us laser-focused control. And finally, pro tools like modules and frameworks are what let us build complex sites efficiently. And it's really crucial to understand where CSS 3 fits into the whole web development ecosystem. You start with HTML5 for the raw structure, right? Then you layer on CSS 3 to handle all the visual design and presentation. This is the critical bridge that takes your static pages and gets them ready for the really powerful, interactive stuff that you'll build with frameworks like Node.js and Angular.
So you've got the skeleton with HTML, and now you've got the style to make it look brilliant with CSS. But it's still just a pretty picture. The big question is, how do you make it think? How do you make it interactive, connected to data, and turn it from a simple page into a living, breathing application?